Hey there guys, how's it going? This is Thiago from Flip again, and in this video class I'll talk about relative clauses, okay? It's a pretty simple topic, right? So take a look at the video and enjoy. Alright guys, so as I said, today we'll talk a little bit about relative clauses, okay? So first thing, I'll give you some examples, alright? It's not complicated for you, I'm sure you'll be okay with this, right? I'll start giving you some examples, okay? Let's take a look at the first one. It says, I have a lot of friends who are interested in music. If you analyze, there are two sentences there. First, I have a lot of friends and they are interested in music. But it's possible to join them, to put these two sentences together. I can say, I have a lot of friends who are interested in music. So you see, I joined the two clauses, the two sentences. And the second one, right, where I use who, is the relative clause. So who are interested in music is the relative clause. Now, how do we put them together? Let's read it again, right? Let's take a look. I have a lot of friends who are interested in music. Okay, question. Friends, take a look. The friends, are they things or are they people? Are they objects or are they people? They're people, right? So every time I have people, okay, and I want to join the two sentences, the second sentence I will use who, because who will represent the people I mentioned before. So I have a lot of people who are interested in music, all right? Because my friends are people, and in this case, I will use who, okay? Now, let's take a look at the second example I have here for you. She works at a store which sells video games, right? She works at a store which sells video games. Question, store, is it people? I mean, is a store a person? No, it's not, right? It's a thing, it's an object. It's not an object, it's actually a location, okay? But basically, it's not a person. When it's not a person, I will use the relative pronoun which, all right? So, she works at a store which sells video games. So, in this case, attention, I will use who and which. More specifically, I will use who for people, and I will use which for things in general, all right? Basically, who for people and which for all the other things, locations, situations, whatever, all right? Now, I will continue here and I will show you a little difference, right? I'll continue talking about relative clauses, give you some more examples, but now they are a little different. Take a look at the first example I have here, right? I know a guy that is a great poker player. I know a guy that is a great poker player. I mean, you saw in the last slides that when I have people, I use who, right? So, for example, I know a guy who is a great poker player. But when I use who or when I use which, when I talk about people or when I talk about things, it's possible to use that. So, when I have a guy, he's a person, I can use that. So, for example, I know a guy that is a great poker player. It means the same thing as I know a guy who is a great poker player. It's exactly the same, right? Now, attention to the other example I have. He only buys clothes that are on sale. He only buys clothes that are on sale. So, clothes in this case, are they people? No, they aren't. I know a guy. A guy is a person, all right, but he only buys clothes. Clothes are not people, okay? They are things. And in this case, I also use that. So what I mean here with these examples is that I use who for people, which for things, but I use that for both, for people and for things, right? Well, this is it. Now, let's continue and I'll show you some difference. In the next slide, I'm going to ask you to pay attention to something important. There are, according to this slide, two possibilities, okay, of relative clauses, okay, we have here. We have the subject relative clause that works like this. Attention to my example. I like games that are competitive, okay? I like games that are competitive, okay? And then we have there, I have games, right? Object, thing, whatever. And I use the verb are, okay? According to the pronoun. According, in this case, to the noun, games. The games are, okay? I like games that are competitive. Okay, you see that immediately after the relative pronoun that, I use a verb, okay? This is called a subject relative clause, right? Now, I will talk about an object relative clause. Attention to my example. This is the new car that she bought, right? Okay, in this case, I talk about the new car, but immediately after the relative pronoun, I don't use a verb, I use a pronoun or a noun, right? I could say, this is the new car that Susan bought, okay? In this case, when I use after, immediately after the relative pronoun, when I use a noun or a pronoun, which is the case here, I can do something, I can remove the relative pronoun that. So, this is the new car that she bought, right? So, I remove it, and it goes like this. This is the new car she bought. Attention, the two possibilities are correct, okay? It's not an obligation to remove that, but it's very normal, it's very usual, okay? So, I can only remove that in this case when I have a noun or a pronoun immediately after the relative pronoun, that or who or which. Okay? Alright? Now, in this next slide, I'm gonna ask you to do some activities, okay? I'll give you some time and then you think and then you help me, right? So let's take a look here. She loved the movie that they watched last night. This is the first sentence, all right. Okay? Attention to my second sentence. Those are the people who call me every night, right? This is the second example. And finally, I have a beach house which I bought last year, okay? So right there we have three sentences. I'm going to ask your help to do something. You're going to tell me what sentences I can remove the relative pronoun. So for example, she loved the movie that they watched last night. I have a question. Where is the relative pronoun? The relative pronoun is that, right? After that, after the relative pronoun, what do I have? A verb or a pronoun? I have a pronoun, they, right? So she loved the movie that they watched last night. When I have a pronoun after the relative pronoun, I can remove the relative pronoun. So the sentence can be, she loved the movie they watched last night, right? Now, attention to the second sentence. Those are the people who call me every night. You see, the relative pronoun in this sentence is who. And immediately after the relative pronoun, I have the verb call. So I don't have a pronoun after the relative pronoun, you know? So in this case, it's impossible to remove the relative pronoun who, okay? Those are the people who call me every night. If I remove, it is incorrect. I can't say, those are the people call me every night. You see, it's impossible. I have to use, in this situation, it's an obligation to use who? To use the relative pronoun. Alright? And finally, we have a sentence here which says, I have a beach house which I bought last year. I have a beach house which I bought last year. So, after the relative pronoun which, I am using the pronoun I. So, when I have a pronoun after, immediately after the relative pronoun, I can do what? I can remove the relative pronoun. And it goes like, I have a beach house I bought last year. Alright? Basically, this is it for this part. Now, my friends, help me out here. Let's move on. Let's continue talking about relative clauses. But now let's be more specific. Let's talk about whose, okay? Whose represents possessives, right? So let's take a look at the examples I have here for you. I have a lot of friends. Their cars are very old. Okay, so I am talking about my friends, okay? And I'm talking about the cars of my friends. Their cars. Their is a possessive adjective, right? So in this case, I can substitute the possessive adjective there for whose, and it goes like this. I have friends, right? And I have the possessive adjective there. To connect them, there makes reference to my friends, okay? So to connect them, I go like this. I have a lot of friends whose cars are very old. You see? I just connect them. Now, pay attention to my other example here, right? I have whose, I'm sorry, actually I have to finish this one first, okay? I have a lot of friends whose cars are very old, right? Whose is substituting there. That's the idea. And I am putting the two sentences together, right? Okay, now let's take a look at the other example here. Jack is a great guy. His generosity is well known, right? Jack is a great guy. This is one sentence. And then I have another sentence. His generosity is well known, right? So I have two sentences there and I want to put them together. But how can I do it? Let's take a look. I have the guy, a great guy, who Jack is, right? Jack is a great guy, and I am talking about his generosity. I am talking about the generosity of Jack, of the guy, right? So in this case, I can substitute the possessive adjective, his, for the relative clause, the relative pronoun, whose, and it goes like this. Jack is a great guy whose generosity is well known, right? So, pretty simple. In this case, I will use whose to substitute his, all right? So guys, basically this is it. Now I'm going to move on and I'm going to ask you to pay attention because this is a big review, okay? For you to remember what we saw in this video, right? Let's take a look. First thing is, I use who for people, as in the example. She is the one who lives in New York. She is a person. That's why I use who. She is the one who lives in New York. Another topic I have is which. Remember, I use which for things, as in the example. That is the car which I sold. The car is an object. It's a thing. So, that is the car which I sold, right? And finally, I use whose to indicate possession, right? So let's take a look here. That is the boy whose bike was robbed. I can say, that is the boy. His bike was robbed. And connecting, I make, that is the boy whose bike was robbed. Okay? So guys, basically this is how we're going to use the relative clauses, okay? Right now we can use who, which, that, which means, which is for both, for people and things. And finally, whose, that indicates possession. Okay? Well, guys, thank you very much for watching our video, okay? Remember to subscribe to our channel and watch all the other videos we have here, all right? Thank you very much for watching us. I'll see you next time, okay? Bye-bye.